I think it would be fair that we start our session. As I promised, it's 12:35, and this is our lunchtime session, which is our brown bag sessions. Some of you are now familiar to these sessions, where it's a space where we share our knowledge, create our awareness, in terms of what is happening within the city, what is happening around us. You might have seen a couple of emails circulating around saying that this month is Autism Awareness Month. So as the strategic office, we had identified this month. So we felt that it would be a good initiative that we have this engagement, just have some people who might give us, perspective in terms of autism, whether they are parents, whether they are teachers, whether they are practitioners working in this space, because we felt that some of the things that we usually do not talk about, and maybe because it's not well known, maybe because it's something that is usually hard to diagnose and concept in terms of what it is. There's little information that most people know about autism until you have a child, or you have a friend, or you have a colleague who has a child that is suffering from autism, and then you start having awareness around the autism, and I don't even want to describe it, just to say that the disease, because I don't even know if it's something that is a chemical imbalance, is it genetics. So we have invited some people who have gone through some sort of a deep dive in making sure that they are well informed and about this situation, and through their life experience as parents, and through as practitioners, to share with us this knowledge. So I think most importantly for this particular session, we want to take away the stigma around this particular challenge. We want to take away the judgment that we judge as the community who are not aware about this challenge, and obviously in turn probably pay more attention to our kids, be a little more supportive as a community to those who are going through this challenge, and hopefully that you will be able to assist, for someone in the community where now you are more equipped in terms of knowledge, and you start saying, oh, dear neighbor, I've been noticing this, I've recently learned this. You might want to take your child for this, and it's something that could be manageable, or rather than judging your neighbor or feeling pity for your neighbor. So without wasting time, I hope everybody's got their cup. I've got my coffee here with me. Brought your lunch, bring along your lunch, and let's deep dive to our session. So I am going to introduce our first speaker, of which is Miss Bongiwe Diapile, who is a dedicated mother of a 5-year-old boy who's autistic. And she spends most of her time advocating for autism awareness. She's also a founder of an NPO, which is called Not Disability, but Ability. in this NPO, she promotes understanding and education and inclusiveness within the autism community. So because we are struggling with the network, now that I've introduced my speaker, she's going to sort of like introduce herself, and then I'm going to switch off my camera. So I'm going to be behind camera. Over to you, Bongiwe. Just give us a brief understanding in terms of you going through is an autistic through going parenting for um, an autistic child, and tell us a bit more about your NPO. Bongiwe.
Okay, thank you so much, Zama. Well, okay, my name is Ubonyewe Liepile. I am a mother to a 5-year-old boy who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. So before I had my son, I didn't know anything about autism. I didn't even know there was something called autism la emhlabeni up until I had to experience it firsthand. So the symptoms and the signs that alerted me about my son was that he had something called a regress. So a regress is when your child speaks and then instead of having words added on his or her vocabulary, they become lesser and lesser. So you can imagine as a parent, your child as speaking, and then all of a sudden your child has no words in his vocabulary. So that is when I started to pick up that actually something is wrong with my son. But even before that, it took me time for me to understand that it may be caused by something. So I had this thing that he will outgrow it, that he will be fine, he will outgrow it, and then his speech will come because he used to talk. So his speech will eventually come. But then I see that now years are going, the speech, nothing. And he started to, there's this thing called steaming. He started to steam a lot, of which I didn't understand what is it that he's doing. So I'll always tell him to sit still. He likes to move around. He'll have the sounds that he makes when he moves around that I didn't understand what was happening up until I decided to take him to a speech therapist, because that is where I actually started my journey. I took him to the speech therapist. So when I'm there, once I'm busy explaining, because luckily I was very much interested and invested in knowing what was wrong with my son. So I kept asking questions, even though it wasn't related to speech. So I don't know if you guys can also hear him from behind. This is him, he's steaming. So he would do this and I wouldn't know what is wrong with him. So I'd say umntana usitota akahlale still, akahlale phansi, of which I was frustrating him more and more and more. But mina, I wasn't aware of it. So when I was communicating with the speech therapist, asking questions to the speech therapist, then she referred me to an occupational therapist. Only then did I then get an understanding of what exactly is happening with my son. And this was now 3 years later. So meaning he started to regress at the age of 2 and only got an official diagnosis at the age of 3. So from that from the time he was born up until 3 years, I didn't know what was wrong with him. I kept on seeing changes. I kept on seeing things that I didn't know what was happening. And bear in mind, this is my first child. And this is the first also in my family. So we have no idea what this is. When I ask the grandparents, they have no idea what is happening with the child. So many assumptions happened. Go happened, traditional stuff happened, trying to understand what is it that is going on with him. Because you can imagine, you think you have this kind of a child, that you're growing this kind of a child, only to find out that you are not. So that is why I started this NPO, to bring awareness, to to notice those little signs, and to encourage parents to do early intervention, to not leave it to go longer, because early intervention is very much important. Early interventions, we're talking about your speech therapist, your therapy sessions with the child at a younger age, so that bakula already, there is a treatment, or there is a way of them understanding now as a parent, understanding what is happening with your child, so that you can give proper support to your child. Because if you don't know what is happening with your child, it's difficult for you to give them the right support or the right ingredients, because now yourself you don't know. So as the Bayashuguti, lack of knowledge is what kills so many people. So you end up trying each and everything that is there. You end up going everywhere where people say there is help, because of desperation, because they are known as what's killing us, especially our Black community. Because Tina, umtana, it's either ustod, mela khulume, mela yenze ini. We have our own set of routine of a child needs to be like this. Makangekho kanje, then there is something wrong with the child. So I had to learn it. Unfortunately, I had to learn it myself. I had to go knock on doors that I didn't know that I could knock on. I had to go in spaces that I didn't know that I will end up going, just for me to get the knowledge, just for me to get the education. So now with the NPO, I'm bridging the gap between the two. I'm bridging the gap between the society and the education, especially towards the autism spectrum disorder, because even today there's a lot of conception when it comes to the disorder. Even today there's a lot of in denial when it comes to parents. Even today there is a lot of awareness that needs to be done, because especially here in South Africa, when you look at other countries, how they embrace autism and how we embrace autism is totally different. And the fact that now the numbers are increasing. But now, but it's the injections, it's the injections that the kids have, uses cause of the autism. That there is so many speculations, because it's a taboo thing in our community. It's like now, go by a pandemic, it's something that came in, and it's a reigning autism now. So I think bringing proper awareness to the community, bringing proper awareness to individuals, it'll assist, especially with the acceptance and the inclusion in society, because our kids are very much excluded. Our kids are very much not given a chance. So as soon as your child is autistic, or as soon as you say my child is autistic, automatically it's a write-off, it's a pack, whereby it's very difficult to even find something which is a very basic need in South Africa: education. We're struggling from education, we're struggling with therapists, we're struggling. So everything which has to do with autism, or taking care of a child who's on a spectrum, or taking care of a child with autism, it's a drag. There is nothing that comes easy to us. If it's not expensive, it takes time. So expensive meaning it's either you go private. When you go private, you pay a lot of money. And then when you go public, it's a huge waiting list. For the fact that there's some parents that I know, since abantwana babo, they've been on waiting list just to get on a school which is a basic need here in South Africa for a child. It's called abuse in South Africa. But for us to get proper schools that cater for our kids, it's a nightmare. So those are the huge challenges that we are facing as parents living with kids who are autistic. The stigma, the exclusion, the challenges of everything is expensive and everything is costly, everything is time. There's parents that cannot even afford to take time to go and wait for a therapist. There's parents who cannot afford that. because Google time is money. That clock in, that is a bread on the table. Ngapha, they are fussy eaters. They don't just eat anything. That's another thing also. So it's everything which has to do with raising a child on a spectrum. It's difficult. And we're just pleading, Uguti, at least after this session, we'll be able to get a direction or get a way on how we can work together between and bridge the gap, because the gap is too much. The gap is too much, the awareness is low. So education needs to come, education needs to spread, awareness needs to be brought back to the community, because without education and without the knowledge, there is literally nothing that is going to be fulfilled. We are still going to struggle the way we're struggling. And as parents, we are the ones that carry a lot of burden at the end of the day. And if you can imagine, if you are not fulfilled, or if you are not okay as a parent, and if it's a challenge just raising a neurotypical, meaning a normal child, imagine what we go through. So with all the support and the awareness and the education, then I think that is the only way that we're going to be able to bridge the gap. So yeah, I think for now I'll just pack it there.
Thank you so much, Bongiwe. I'm hearing the word syndrome. I'm hearing challenges around denial, challenges around shame, stigma, and taboo. The biggest part is the lack of, government programs that support this particular challenge, whether it's proper health program that enables to support parents and kids around this program, the long waiting issues, the school programs that are supporting this particular challenge. It actually reminds me about how the country started with handling the issues of HIV and AIDS. If you like flip in terms of the what we're talking about and just put AIDS, you will remember that there's a little bit of denial that it's there and it's affecting our communities. There was so much shame and stigma put around it, and took government quite a long time to come around with the programs to support such challenges. Now, I want to quickly move on to Sandy, who is a neuro-linguistic specialist, and she looks at also alternate health as a therapist. She looks in terms of neurodiversity and advocates for humanitarian. And she's a founder also of La Lizalise Wellness, meaning to fulfill and manifest your destiny. She's also a mother, the two autistic daughters. So, Sandy, can you come to the platform and share your perspective in terms of raising your two daughters, and talk to us a little bit about your work that you do as an NLP practitioner?
All right, thank you so much, Sis Zama. And yeah, I'm honored to be here at this space and to be able to put in my 2 cents worth as well. Like you've said, I am a mother, I am a life coach, I am an NLP practitioner. I do all these things that bring about, an increase in personal wellness, because I've come to realize through this journey that everything begins with you. So whatever any of us are facing, if you deal with the demons within and deal with fixing your mindset, then it's easier to face anything, any challenge that that comes across our way. So I am a mother, like as it was mentioned, I'm a mother to two girls. Their names are Esona and Sisa. They are twins. Actually, their name is actually a sentence. When said in conjunction with each other, it actually means esona sipho sisamkele, meaning we have received the ultimate gift. So when these two girls were born, it was in 2008. They're twins. So I must stop saying the two girls so that you understand they are twins. They were born in 2008. I had a normal pregnancy, and I went almost, I almost went the entire full term with them. They were delivered by cesarean section, near perfect ABGA scores. And yeah, there was nothing really to bring about any fear or any doubt as to their wellness. Myself, on the other hand, as well, I was in relatively good health throughout the pregnancy. And when I came out of it, I remember just briefly when they were born, I experienced just a bit of hypertension, but it was nothing that seemed to bother my gynae. And I was given a course of medication, which I finished by the time I was discharged from the hospital. So I think I'm just bringing this to show that there was nothing really in my pregnancy or during childbirth that was highlighted to me that there could be any abnormalities regarding my children or any health issues. But then similarly, the issues started around during the development, the reaching of the time of the milestones for my kids. Everything went about normally. They reached all the expected milestones except speech. Now, I think my issue was a bit unique in that mine were multiples. They were twins. So you got a lot of different opinions about twins. So a lot of people would say twins somehow it's not unusual for them to be delayed. It happens that sometimes they are so comfortable within their own little bubble, and they already have their own way of communicating. They understand each other, so they tend to not be in a hurry to start focusing on communicating with the outer world, and that I shouldn't worry. But I already started, noticing other things. I think, like Bongi said, the stimming, you would see that, but this child is walking on her toes. One of them becomes rather aggressive. One of them would cry throughout the night. My child would cry until neighbors come. My child would cry until other people suspect abuse. They're thinking something dodgy must be happening in this house. There's no child who can cry like that the whole night. So I had a lot of trouble actually getting to a formal diagnosis. So actually, I'm so happy to hear that these days it seems that professionals are able to reach a point of diagnosis much earlier. So there is increased chances of early intervention, and I'm so proud of the strides that have been made in terms of that, because really early intervention is key in this in this community. So with my kids, I got my formal diagnosis a bit later on, because I actually fought for it, because a lot of doctors did not even understand what autism is, what ASD is all about, because I think a lot of them understood it in terms of what Bongi has said, which is in terms of the regression, where they would say children have started speaking, but then they stopped at some point, or they started um, having fewer words to speak. So with my children now, when I say they have never spoken, they have never, all their lives, they have never uttered words. So people will say, no, but that's not autism. So it started in a very, very interesting and way different way for me at that time, because it was relatively unknown, not only in South Africa, but in most parts of the world. I would bring it up more than doctors, more than other health professionals. So my kids had trouble now because of that limited ability to express themselves. They had trouble getting into schools. They had trouble getting, getting into play groups, getting into, making friends. The normal things that children their age were doing, mine were not able to do for the longest time. And it started, having an effect on me. It started having an effect on the type of, on my expectations, because all of us, I had these two beautiful, beautiful girls, and my expectations were that at a certain age, I'll take them to a preschool. But my children got kicked out of so many preschools because they were not exhibiting the type of behavior that teachers were trained to handle. They were not able to relate with other children in the way that was expected of by other children and other teachers. So my life started taking a different turn in terms of what my expectations were for my children. So it also now started affecting me. I started feeling like, oh my goodness, what have I done wrong? What have I been doing wrong? And it did not help that the community, the wider community, the elders you would talk to, no one knew what autism was. So the kind of advice you got was always counterproductive to the condition to the problem at hand. So you would get advice like, no, don't worry, at some point they will talk. People will give you anecdotes. They would say things like, don't worry, just give them this, it will work. Or they would say, Einstein, it means these kids are are geniuses. At a certain age, people who are genius don't talk until a certain age. Maybe they're just perfectionists. They want to talk when they can already say full words, full sentences. Other people would say it's because you have not done a certain traditional rites of passage. Other people would tell you it's because you don't pray enough. So for me, I think my journey then is more about getting you as a parent to a space where you are more compassionate about yourself, where you are not judging yourself for having the kids that you have. Also, not judging yourself for not always having all the answers, because that puts you now into a position of more victimhood, because those are things you cannot do anything about. So my journey had to get to sort of a pinnacle point, I might say, where I had to reach a make it or break it stage. And I must say, by the time I reached the break it stage, it was bad. I was deeply depressed. I was clinically depressed. I was disappointed. I was mad at the world because I felt like no one gets it. At the school where my children were, it's a special school where you would expect that these people will be able to handle these types of behaviors. You know, they would say your child is doing this, your child is hurting themselves, and we are scared because now there's blood coming out. They're going to, you know, maybe infect the other children if they have a wound, things like that. You know, and you would feel like, oh my goodness, I expected more empathy. I expected more understanding. I expected um, better ways to intervene when such things come. You know, we are parents, we are trying to make a living. I'm at work, and you would get called and they would say, please come and get your kids. Basically, we don't know what to do with them. Your child maybe has had an accident, they've peed on themselves or whatever, come and get them. We don't know. We can't keep them at the office or whatever, you know. So there was a lot at that stage of my life to just, you know, put me at a position where I felt like the whole world has no idea what I'm going through. And it just sent me into a deep depressive state. Um, I remember one incident also that so okay, I'm just mentioning this because there's a time that most of the time we live in the future. You know, we live in the future. We're always thinking, oh my goodness, what's gonna happen the day I'm not here? It's bad enough, and while I'm alive, what will happen the day I'm not here? You know, I would think one of the doctors that my kids were seeing at that time would tell me that, or once told me that, you know, these kids are getting close to puberty. I'll never forget the way, I don't remember the exact words, but the way she said it was, your children are getting close to puberty. And once the children like this reach puberty, they become hypersexual, you know. And that was so, maybe it's true, but for me, it felt like she is making my children's condition, she's blaming it for the fact that there are people who are predators out there who prey on the vulnerable. Because then she was telling me that my kids, it's inevitable, they will do this, there will be people out there who will prey on them, and there's basically nothing that can be done except for me to expect that to happen to them, and to know that there's no other intervention but for them to actually do hysterectomies where they remove their wombs so that they do not get pregnant. I remember that point, that day so much, because it made such a huge impact. It actually, one of the things that scarred me in this journey, that someone can say that, you know. And I think that's one of the, you know, experiencing that pain and that powerlessness is one of the reasons why I stand today and say, let me become a voice, let me become an advocate, let me do my best to create safe spaces for my children and for other children. Let me become a voice so that other people can know better about people who are not neurotypical like they are, you know. So my journey crushed me, but through that crushing, I became now a, you know, what do you get when you crush grapes? You get wine, you get juice, you know, so that I can now add life to those who are in a similar position that I had found myself a long time ago, you know. So in me getting, experiencing all that, feeling all that powerlessness, I needed a coach. I needed so many, of the types of support that I give others today, because it was not easy going at it alone. It was also not easy because a lot of the people that I expected to hold my hand, that I expected support from, your closest friends at times, your family members, your relatives, the people that you should not even ask about, but you could see that they have no real understanding of what it is that you go through. And that as much as you try and communicate it, they still believe what they have in their minds about this situation. So it's like, even when you do tell them, you can see the level where they are at, and it keeps you isolated from them. You isolate yourself, not that you want to be alone, but you are trying to actually not to burden others with these children. You don't want to also burden yourself with the discomfort of being around them and having to be hyper. We are so hyper vigilant wherever we are, because you are so scared of how people react, how it can, everything they do sometimes is so offensive to everybody else, and I think it becomes harder and harder as they grow as well, because they look like big girls, and people would be like, no, these children are just misbehaving and all of that. Whereas the way they experience the world is very different from how other people experience it. So I partly do the work that I do in order to impart some of those experiences, and to just help people understand neurodiversity. So people, we live in a world that is tailored for the neurotypical. So me coming with my organization, which is called Autism Expressed, is to impart some knowledge on the neurotypical people, so that they understand that there is this thing called autism, and it's a spectrum. So as much as two people can be diagnosed with autism, they can express it and live it out in totally different ways. So there are people with autism who require much less support on a daily basis, and there are people like my children who require a whole lot more support on a day-to-day basis. So the work that I've launched the foundation last month on Human Rights Day, and I did that on purpose. I was not financially ready or anyhow ready to do this, but for me it meant something to do it on that particular day, because I feel like they have a right they have a right to experience a world in which they can belong. They can feel they have a right to be there. And also, it's not just about them, it's also about including the community and saying, here I am, I'm open, come and ask me, come and let me teach you what I know, so that you can be an ally to my children. You can be an ally to the autism community. You don't have to have autism or have a child with autism in order for you to be a supporter and an ally and an advocate for this community. So yeah, that is the reason why I did this. And we plan to include institutions like yourself at eThekwini. Thank you so much for doing the work that you are doing. We want to train people on the, sort of like etiquette, how etiquette is just, you know, a science of teaching other people how they must treat you, you know, teaching them what it is you're all about and the best way in which they can support you. So we want to do that, to roll out that kind of training to a lot of the establishments in which we want our children to freely experience, because most of us, we can't just take our kids to a shopping mall, we can't take our kids to shops, we can't take our kids to restaurants. It's an extreme sport. It's an extreme sport. And also my other aim of starting Autism Expressed is to train, to actually offer support to mothers, to fathers as well, to all caregivers, in order to help them be their best selves. Because we cannot support these children, we cannot parent them, we cannot get them the proper interventions if we are depressed, if we are in self-blame, if we are detached from ourselves. We need to employ self-care strategies in order for us to be our best selves, to our first selves first, and then we are better able to serve these children that we love so much. So yeah, that's it. I don't know if I've left anything out, but I'm just going to leave it there so that I don't take any more time.
Thanks, Sandy. Actually, I wanted to allow you to go on,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
and you know, and express yourself in terms of the details, because I wanted to demonstrate to the colleagues the contrast between the two of you in terms of your experience, because someone would have thought that by the age of 16 things will get better. Those, and
Ooh,
I
don't
wanted to highlight that things have not gone better. There's that also assumption. So I'm also picking up, there's still a lot of misconceptions. There's still a lot of lack of understanding.
Definitely.
I was touched a little bit when you also indicated that there was also you know, community suspecting that you were abusing the kids.
Yeah.
And I picked up a lot of rejection from the community, the schools rejecting your kids, and I also sense rejection from families. Between the two of you ladies, I hear a lot of I. I don't hear about my partner. I don't hear about my mom. My sister has got into grip with this, and I know that if I'm not around, she will be there for me, or my partner has established themselves to, you know, to understand what is going on. They're pretty supportive. I will come back on the next round. I need you two ladies to reflect a little bit more on that, because I had a lot of eyes and eyes. And you actually, Sandy said, sometimes you wonder that if you die, what will happen? Things are worse now, but if you're not around, if you die, if anything happens to you, what will happen to these kids? That means it's still a lot of I. And with all that shaming and self-blame around this. Now, I want to switch things a little bit differently. I want us to invite Uswazi. Uswazi is an applied behavior analyst in terms of therapy, but she's also a teacher, of which I had a little bit chat with her. Pumza, I see you. You have hand. Allow me to introduce Swazi, unless she's no longer around. Pumza, did you want to say something before I?
Yeah.
No, Zama. I think nje before uthathe uSandi, I noted ukuthi kunoSihle that had his hand up when even Ubongi had started speaking. So I was thinking ukuthi maybe you can take him before we move to Uswazi. Ngiyabonga.
The thing is, I want give an opportunity to Uswazi first, because some of the answers will be provided by Uswazi if he has a hand. I'm sorry I did not see your hand, but I was monitoring the hands, and I was actually monitoring the chat as well. Can I quickly introduce Uswazi to colleagues so that you can hear the perspective around this challenge that we are talking about, of which autism today. So Uswazi is an applied behavior analysis therapist. She's also a teacher. She's been working with kids with autism for 15 years. She's also passionate about advocating for children living with autism, particularly those who are severely affected. And she believes that no matter in the severity of the spectrum is, every single child deserves an opportunity to learn, and that every child can learn if the environment allows. Swazi, I'm going to allow you to come in, because I would like us parents to pay a little bit of attention when it comes to these things. Some of these things creep in very slowly, and the spectrums are different. Some children will express more symptoms and extreme symptoms, and some of the symptoms they might be really, really extreme and or light. And sometimes when the teachers start engaging us about these things, we start questioning them. What's your business? You're a teacher, you're not a doctor, you're not a psychologist. What business do you have in telling me that my kid is like this? All the siblings, all the cousins were slow in doing this. Don't judge my child, don't compare my child to other kids. We need to find a way to working together and start having an understanding and being responsive to the alerts that are brought in by our teachers, if it so happened that we really want to work with the teachers for the best of our kids. Swazi, can you come in?
Good day to everyone. Ngiyabonga Sizama, and I'd like to thank the eThekwini municipality for hosting this particular brown bag session. I feel like it's very important. I feel like we do not have enough time. However, we will try and just compact everything. I will try and just compact everything and then take questions if we still have the time. It's a very tough act to follow after parents have been relaying their experiences, only because I come from a point of just intervention and trying to assist in the situation as much as I can. So, having the background of early childhood development, going from teaching neurotypical kids to teaching neurodiverse kids, what I can say is people like Obongiwe, who have, against the diversity that they face with the diagnosis, have formed groups to try and rally parents together to fight against this. This is exactly what we need. If I can start there, because she touched on the ratio of the prevalence of autism. When I began working, it was 1 in 110 kids, and today it is 1 in 36 kids. And this is only just the states in the this is only just the stats in the United States. We don't even have our own South African stats to compare to. Now, this is bearing in mind that we come from different cultures, we come from different environments, different classes. This is the first thing that I would advocate for, that we need to get our own stats so that we have our own solutions to this. Um, as I said, I'm coming from the intervention point, and both the parents did touch on the communication and the repetitive behaviors and the socializing and interaction skills that are a huge issue with our kids that are born on the autism spectrum disorder. So, what my organization does, as when I began, was doing home programs where I go into the home, we assess your child to see which barriers are there and what we can work on to get your child to communicate effectively, get rid of the tantrums, the toe walking, as much as we can, the stimming, which could be the hand flapping or all the other stims, like the voice stimming that you heard when Bongio was on. Um, I had initially done that as a home program, which meant that because it's private, it is a niche skill that only few people can afford. However, as Osizama had explained, that I've been in this space for a very long time, I have seen that it does not reach numbers. It does not reach the people that really need it. So it has gone from that, from being the guy whom you could always go to if you could afford the services, to the guy who's trying to get ABA therapy accessible to parents that cannot afford it and parents that really need it because it is empirically proven to yield good results. And I say that my passion is with children that are severely affected because using this method of teaching means that the children that are on the other side of the spectrum that function better, in quotes, um, it would definitely help them out. But the parent that you normally find in a really dire situation and really not knowing where to go usually is the parent with a severely affected child, because that is the parent whose school doors are always going to be closed in her face for something that she cannot control herself. Um, so, as you were speaking about it just now, Coach Sandy, talking about teachers are untrained, um, where would your children go if you find yourself in a situation where you cannot look after them? Um, just now on the 27th of April, Ubongiwe and I are hoping to have me host a workshop for parents or caregivers or anyone who's in close contact with the child, whether it's your nanny, whether it's Ugogo, whether it's the daddy, whomever, to just break down this teaching method, which is the ABA teaching method, into finer components where everyone can understand what is going on around the whole autism diagnosis. Um, for example, Usizama touched on the teachers who have heart, who really want to help these kids, who have the qualifications for teaching. However, once you put a child in front of them who has ADHD, ADD, worse of severely affected autism, they do not know what to do. If we can make enough noise, like I said, someone like me who's come from the private sector to say this is not working because it's only reaching the children of ministers and children of, your doctors. How can we make sure that we advocate for these kids who cannot afford this? Um, it needs to be done because all children have the ability to learn if they are being taught in the manner that they understand. It doesn't matter what kind of severity or what cards you've been dealt, if the right intervention is there and the right people are hired who understand the diagnosis, who understand the syndrome, we can get to a point where our children are helped to function to the best of their abilities. Um, like I said, it is very tough to speak after the parents have spoken because I only come in for a certain number of hours. I do what I need to do, and I hope that it is carried over into the home environment, which most of the time it's not, because there really is no deeper understanding as to what I am doing for 5 hours or for 6 hours with the child. Um, so I would say that, just in short, I would advocate for more education, more especially for parents, for people that are entrusted with the kids, should anything happen to the primary caregiver, so that we all know what beast is this. What do we mean when we say it's a communication deficit? It's sensory integration is needed. Socialization is not there. You were talking about puberty. How do we break down the skills to make sure that my child understands that it's that time of the month? This is what they need to do, or for my child to understand that in order for them to be able to socialize, they need to first have eye contact. They need to be able to wait. They need to be able to exchange words and wait for the other person to have their turn, in terms of dialogue and all of that. It's not only just about being able to verbally express certain things. There are many other means of communication. You have your picture exchange systems, you have your augmentative communication systems that are there, whether it's the iPad, whether it's the sign language. And most of our parents, um, even though doctors, our neuropeds are able to diagnose properly the syndrome, the doctors still do not know who to refer you to for that for that specific diagnosis that you might have. I cannot, for example, as a neuroped, get a child today or at 1 o'clock who has ADHD, refer them to Uswazi, and then get a child who cannot sit for 2 minutes and still refer them to Uswazi. So not only parents have to be informed, but it is a bigger fight that needs to involve everyone, even in the healthcare system, to understand that this is much broader. This needs more disciplines, not just. It, it's such a funny thing because every parent will tell you about. I was told to go to a speech therapist. I was told to go to an occupational therapist. Then what? What after that? Because 30 minutes for your child who does not have speech, like Coach Sandy was saying, who doesn't even have speech to begin with, what is speech therapy for? You need to know the intricacies of speech. There is oral muscles that are low, there are oral tones, there are breathing, all of that. So that's what basically applied behavior analysis does. We assess, we check what the deficit is in the skill, and then that same skill is broken down into finer parts. Because if you have missed 4 years or 5 years, you are lucky, of years to diagnose your child, and you look around you, look at your neighbor's child's development, which I do not recommend, but I know that automatically that's just what naturally happens, then you tend to see how much time has been missed. And the therapy that we do usually gets a lot of flack because it's very intense. However, like I say, if you look around and see how much time would have been missed during the time Nenza Usigo, during the time you are unsure, during the time you are still in denial, it's a lot of time that is missed and that we try to work with um, while we do ABA therapy. However, as I have said, I am more now advocating for caregivers because I cannot reach the whole world. You know, it will take maybe another 5 years for someone in my sector who was working with the type of children that I was working with to think there's a child in Alex, for example, there's a child in Tembisa, for example, who needs to have the same type of intervention quality that is curated for them to be able to develop their skills. Teachers as well. Teachers who are just trained that you stand in front of the class, you in front of the class, excuse me, you teach English, you teach maths, you teach this. But what about a child who cannot sit? What do I do then in a class of 35? Um, so that's what where my journey is right now. And like I say again, I'm very grateful for this. If maybe it would have been made into a two-part or a three-part, because I can imagine the type of questions that will come after this. Um, but in a nutshell, that is what we do with the understanding that we all come from different situations. This is South Africa at the end of the day. And let's just forge forward to be the voices of these children that cannot speak for themselves, these children that are being put out as misbehaving, these children that are being put out as lazy, these children that are being put out as spoiled, which is so far from the truth. Um, Advocating for that as well as advocating for the parents to receive the kind of therapy they need for themselves, for their glasses to be filled in order for them to deal with this every single day.
Phew. Yeah, I want to open up the questions, but a quick one in terms of what I'm getting. South Africa is not paying enough attention to this disease of syndrome, such that there's not enough data, there's not enough research that has been done around it. But I'm picking up a lot in terms of the lack of awareness and education. Maybe that is why we're not doing any research, because there's lack of education, or maybe we are not doing any education because we are not collecting enough data, because I see so much education required for the parents, the families, the communities. I'm looking at the medical practitioner. What also triggered me, the way the medical doctor was communicating with Sandy, of which part of it, it might be a misconception, because not everything fits for all these kids, even though we know people who are living with disability or mental issues, they're very vulnerable in terms of sexual abuse. But probably there might have been another way to communicate, of which comes to think about the early diagnosis. We still need to educate anybody who's in the medical field. Mothers go for postnatal checkups. This thing of monitoring the child, they need to be given at least 5 steps to quickly diagnose or make an assessment in terms of the child development. When the kids are being taken for immunization, it probably this could come, one of the requirements in terms of the assessment for the kids, because the kids do go for these immunization phases, where at least until they are 8 or 6 or 8. So if health practitioners, nurses, or the doctors are empowered to do these assessments, and probably it's part of the system that these assessments need to be done, it could also assist the parents, in actually checking, monitoring their kids for this. Even though Bongiwe had said there's a backlog in terms of the system, it means there's just no capacity at all, because this is a small niche, like Swazi is saying, that probably Swazi, if you can count yourself in South Africa, people who are like you in South Africa who've got these skills, I'm sure there is not more than 20 of you. And how many of us in South Africa, millions of South Africans might be having similar problems. Some of them, they've gone unknown that they have a similar problem, because there's no data, there's no proper, or there's no early diagnosis. Let me not hold back. Let me open up to the questions. Zagambe Bote, who had their hand up. I don't see their hands up. Let's give them the opportunity first, and then I
Okay,
will
Zama,
allow.
it was, I think it was Usihle Ntuli, angikho sure if he's still online.
Yes, sister, you can go ahead.
Sanbonani, good afternoon. Well, yeah, I'm still online, Pumzile. Thanks for the opportunity to talk. I heard Tubongi when I heard Coach Sandy, and I heard Swazi, and all of what you guys are saying was appreciated. Well, I also have two myself. I have a daughter. Okay, I started actually noticing this behavior when she was 3 years old, and then at 4 she had to start school, and then in the school that I took her to, because my kids also has albinism, it's a special school. They said they cannot accept her because of that delayed speech. She was then she was 5 years old, but because of the delayed speech, they said she she speaks like someone who's like 2 years old. And then in the school where they sent her to, they said she has got echolalia, where she repeats what she said. If she said hello Enzo, she will say hello Enzo, for some time. So her behavior, as Mungi was explaining on her side, it was not that of a normal kid. And I've also experienced where she was actually expelled from a crash, and I had actually nowhere to take it to. But fortunately, I had to take it to that school, what you call this, San Rafael School. Uh, another thing that I'm experiencing is that they'll tell you, take your child to a, what you call this, educational therapist, speech therapist, and all of that. And what I've discovered, even with my last born son does not talk at all. Okay, he can sing, he can say stuff that he wants to say, but he will not respond to to a normal conversation. Or if you say to him, uh, go do this, he will not respond to instructions, but he will just do what he wants to do. Or if he wants some food, he will go near the fridge and open the door and show you that he's hungry now. But he will not talk and say, I'm hungry. But you can see that he can speak because he can sing whatever that he wants to sing. So um, with that, and then I also took him to a speech therapist. And what I identified again now this is a second journey with my son. And in this journey, I've also noticed that the speech therapists, yes, the first thing about them is that they're expensive. You spend that hour. Another thing is that some of them struggle to stay with them, like they don't understand them at all. And then maybe the child will start crying for you, and then they make they tell you things that you know and that you are aware of, and they seem to have no sort of solution for your problems. And then you come for you need to come for a second visit, but you find like, why am I even going there? Because she does not understand my son. And but you keep on going, but it's still expensive, it's draining, it's tiring, it, it's just a journey that but you keep on going because you have no option as a parent. You have no options to give up, but you have to keep on going. And you get teachers calling you. There are others tell you that, even with I still experience with my daughter currently, where the last year I was actually called. She's going through a class called LSEN class. That means she doesn't do other subjects. She does like 4 subjects in the school, where they tell you that your child has certain um, limitations, and they are unable to cope with her, and they recommend that you find another school. And then when you go to and try and find a school, you realize that no one wants to accept your child into a school. So it's like you sometimes you don't even know what to do. Not even sometimes, especially most of the time, you don't even know what to do because no one can cope with your kids. So it's just sometimes a lonely journey, but we do what we can as parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Sihle, for sharing that with us. Something I did not highlight, but has been said now and again, it's the expenses around it, and it's the you know the help being only accessible through the private sector, and that private sector is expensive, and it's very sad when you hear Sihle saying that even the person who's supposed to be who's expected to help my child cannot help my child. but I need to keep on going. Something maybe Bongi and Swazi, maybe also when we do the last, takeaways, I just want to have an understanding on the level of impact it has on your careers. If there's any support from your workspace in terms of understanding the situation that you're dealing with, that if the therapist cannot be with my child for that particular session alone and I have to be there, is there support that is there from your work environment to enable you to be there for your child and be present during this session? Or does that mean that you need to forget about your career and focus on your kids? So Swazi, I'm going to come back to you because you have your hands up. No, Swazi, you can come through. I'm saying you can come in.
Oh, okay. I wanted to respond to Sihle in particular. I guess regarding the whole thing that you have phrased now, that you were right when you began to say this goes back to just professionals not being educated enough on what to do with it. Because in my world and what I do, if your child has echolalia, you are halfway to where you need to get to. However, the professionals are not clued up or educated or will accept education on the fact that echolalia is speech that already exists, which is good, that could be shaped to be the type of speech that you are looking for, as well as receptive language. If your child can lead you to the fridge, as you are saying, it means that he has the communication skills. It's just that he cannot yet express it. That is where we come in to work on it, to say, okay, now that you've got this, how do we express it? Like I had said earlier, that the therapy is very intense, because once I come into your home and I work with your child, or one day if I have a school, God willing, your child will not get the apple for free if they can go to the fridge. There would have to be an exchange first, then the child would get the apple. So basically, what I'm trying to say to you, Sihe, is that the help is there. This is why sessions like this are really, really important for you to know that you can work with it, because even a child that is nonverbal can find a way to actually say, I want an apple from the fridge. The behaviors that are exhibited when your child sits at the therapy table, at the speech therapy table, the speech therapist was never ever taught at school what to do if the child is sliding off the chair, what to do if the child is banging the table, what is the function of that behavior. If I don't leave the parents with anything else today, I would just like to say, for whatever behavior that you do see that is exhibited, it is a form of communication. And our job as professionals who come to you and say, we can help you out, is to figure out what that communication is that the child is trying to exhibit. So I have dropped my emails there. Whomever wants to contact me privately can do so, and we just see what we can do going forward, so I can extend all this information and all this experience that I felt to respond to you, because I know exactly what needs to be done in the situation. However, as you are saying, you have gone through this for years. You probably had a lot of people tell you they know what to do, but it's something that it's something that can be worked with. And yeah.
Thank you, Swazi, for that. I know we have sort of gone over time. For those who can stay, can stay. Pumzile, I don't know if you wanted to alert me on something, or you had a question, or can I take Apiwe first before I take you?
Okay, that's fine. Apiwe can go.
Apiwe?
Hi, my name is Apu Mkulisi. I'm a mother to a 5-year-old autistic baby boy, I wanted to share with you guys that my son's school usually holds an annual event for autistic children, like everyone is allowed to attend. So I was touched by Sitlo's story. I wanted to let him know that he can come. I'll share the details, the dates and whatnot, because they haven't given us the dates. They usually hold it in April. He goes to New Hope Academy. It's a very small school in Pietermaritzburg. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Apiwe. Everybody's also actually welcome to share something on the chat if you know the programs and the website that people can go to and they can get assistance from. But I know Swazi has also shared her details around her contact details. Kumzile, and then I'll take Bongiwe.
I would like to just thank the ladies for sharing their stories, and I would also like to thank Usihle to share for sharing it, yakhe. And I think it is just overwhelming listening to a male person going through what he's going through. And I just have this one thing in mind, a question that says, then who supports the parents? Where do you guys go? What do you do? Because I know sometimes, I think Ubongi have mentioned it, ukuthi in a family, it end up being a strange thing happening. So meaning that no one is willing to understand ukuthi your child is like this. No one is supportive of you. So what do you do? Where do you guys go to go and get help for yourselves? Because I'm sure it is a lot for you guys as well. Because us as parents that have normal kids, sometimes you take time out. Even in my house, I have time where I say, Esetu, I'm on timeout. We don't communicate. Please, I just need to be left alone. So what do you do when you are in a situation when you can't say, I need a 5 minutes break? Where do you guys draw your strength from?
That's a good question. Maybe Bongiwe, you can start, and maybe Sandy can also come in after Bongiwe.
And Mike. Okay. Well, to start with the last question, that is why, because we have nowhere to go or nowhere to turn to avoid the depression and avoid being lonely and feeling like everything is on you by yourself. That is why I decided, it's also part of the NPO that I do. I've decided to open a support group for parents. So what we do is that it's a WhatsApp group for parents of or primary caregivers, because we are aware that in our society, kids are not only raised by a mother and a father. So that's why it's inclusive of parents and primary caregivers of kids who are on the spectrum. So I do have a support group where we go in there, and also Usiswazi is part of the group, where we are able to vent whenever you feel like, today I had a hectic day. Maybe my child was having a meltdown. So it's better to speak and communicate with people that will actually relate to you and understand what you mean by saying that. So there's a WhatsApp group that I've opened, which is me creating a village for autistic kids, where parents can come, no judgment. You vent, you do whatever, we share information. We also meet on lunch dates where we meet one-on-one just to have a breather, exchange information, exchange whatever that we need to exchange. We help each other carry the load, because as we say, autism is a spectrum. So what I'm carrying, I might help you adjust your carry, and you may help me adjust my carry. So that is where that is the role of the support group. And also, Zama, you asked about us saying I. Where are the partners and where are the parents? Well, in my case, my husband is fully involved, He's actually the one that sometimes keeps me sane, because as women and as mothers, sometimes we are so emotional. So he's the one that actually brings me together and pulls me together so that I can be able to run this initiative, and the parents are there. As much as this is a new thing to, especially for grandparents, but I will say they are there to give us the support that we need, even though sometimes we walk on the journey. That's why its education is very important, especially for primary caregivers of kids who are on a spectrum. That is why we decided, Nosiswazi, to do the event that we're going to be doing, the training workshop on the 27th of April for all primary caregivers of autistic kids, because 90% of the work is done by us. Everything is done at home. So if the home is not equipped with proper tools, then the home, or then the future, or the child, now you may take the child to so many therapists, you may take the child to whatever therapist, but as long as Magabuya, the 90% is not equipped with proper tools, then Gafan, because 90% of the work is done at home. So that's why we bring it back at home. That's why we are passionate about teaching and workshopping the home state before we go out to workshop or to educate other people that are around. So I'm not on this journey by myself. I started by myself, but learning and getting people like Abu Siswazi, getting people now up like Abu Coach Sandy that I will be in touch with, who oyenza abo logistics in linguistics and so forth. That is how we create the village. This is how we create our own community. This is how we create, because I believe that for us to have change, we need to speak in one voice. So if Omunyo Kuluma this tone and the other one speaks on another tone, no change or nothing effective will be done. So if we gather together and Bayashuguti divided we fall, but if Sibayimbumba and we hold each other and we speak in one voice as of parents and primary caregivers of kids on the spectrum, then only then change will commence. Thank you.
Thank you, Bongiwe. I think I was billed as next after that by Susama.
Yes.
So I'll just go. Yes. Oh, the support is there. However, there's a difference when you're raising a child and when you're raising an autistic child. So in most cases around me, especially with my husband, there's times when you feel like, dude, please understand that this child is neurodivergent, So I'm not alone in it. However, I think there's a lot of disconnect with most men regarding accepting the children as they are. So in most cases, we would struggle with allowing them to rather lead us into how they want to be nurtured and brought up, and not try so much as to impose that a girl this age should be able to do this and all of this, which sometimes brings can introduce a lot of what is the aggression. It can also bring about a lot of just anxiety. So a lot of times, me being me and being the teacher and nurturer that I am, I find myself a lot of time having to also now worry about how is his reaction going to be? How is he going to, understand this journey? So this is now me and my husband. This is also between me and the family, in most of the family situations. So even when people, I know they mean well, I know they love and love the twins, but in most cases people want to impose what they know about autism or what they've heard, instead of learning the kids as they are and seeing how they can best support them, so it just becomes a matter of differing in the parenting styles, or in the I would say that it's a matter of differences in our approaches to nurturing children, that can make things a bit hard sometimes, and you feel like, oh my goodness, I still need to do work here. And in terms of, but we keep trying, we keep sharing information, we share our joys, we share our triumphs together, But then there are times when, no matter what, how much you think you know, or how much you think a solution is a simple, is as simple as putting a rule in, or as simple as putting a boundary in. That's not how it's going to work to a neurodivergent child, So a lot of so it comes around to differences in how we approach upbringing. And in terms of where I go to draw my strength, you always need to have a spiritual practice. So a lot of us experience God differently, Christianity and all of that. I grew up in a Christian home. So to me, connecting with God, having alone time is of utmost importance. However, also knowing what I know now through my qualifications as an alternative health professional, and in my work in neurolinguistic programming, you will find that a person still holds limiting belief. A person still holds certain belief systems that do not support that religion that you so believe in, that do not support the fact that God is love. God is here to actually see you prosper and do well. So as as long as you have not dealt with those inner demons, as long as you have not reparented, that part of you that got, that got traumatized when you maybe found out the diagnosis, or the moment you found out that, oh my goodness, it's not something that they are going to outgrow. You are not going to actually reap the benefits of a relationship with God. In my case, that was it. I would pray, but a part of me still believes I'm unworthy of mercy. I'm unworthy of grace, So it's so important for a person to have a practice on a daily basis that's going to help you come into alignment with that part of you that understands that you are created to experience life more abundantly. So I do this. So I support myself in that case by having dedicated self-care routines. I make sure I'm in tip-top condition. I take care of my health, of my well-being. I make sure that I include physical movement, because you can't do one without the other. We are one, a person is made up of different elements. So when one is not well taken care of, the other one is not going to express itself fully. So we need to, I employ holistic wellness techniques. I practice things like yoga. I practice journaling. And these are, I practice movement, physical movement. I practice, I produce products that support that as well. Without good gut health, nothing works. I mean, even with my kids when they were younger, I started seeing the difference between when they have not been on probiotics, for example, and the difference when they are on it. So having a healthy gut is very important to having good health, to supporting also even your mental wellness. just also increasing your energy. So I ensure that everything that I do, that I sell to people, is good for that as well, because that's where everything stems from. When the gut is healthy, the heart is healthy, the mind is healthy as well. So I do a lot. I do retreats, I do online programs, I do, like next week, I'm doing yoga in the park with mothers and caregivers, where that time helps you to reconnect with yourself. It helps you to, release those stored traumas. It helps you then to also be able to sort of identify all the emotions that you're feeling, so that you can process them and release them. Because a lot of us are walking around with unprocessed emotions that we do not know what to do with. Have you ever seen a person just explode out of the blue and you don't understand why are they so angry, or why are they suddenly emotional? So that could also be because we go through so much as mothers. We go through so much. Even mothers of neurotypical children go through so much. But when you don't give yourself permission to just rest and release all of that, then you carry around a lot of trauma, and it is stored in your body. So things like yoga help you to now start releasing all of that pent up emotion, so that you can become lighter and be able to support your children better. We also now use journaling. When you journal, you're putting your dreams, your hopes, your plans, you're putting them into paper, you are solidifying them, you are assigning them to God. You are saying, this is what I'm desiring, or this is what I want to see manifested. When you put it down in writing, you are allowing God to come into your life and help you make those things into a reality. So I love to teach about things like that as well, and how they can help you lighten the load that you carry on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, so just supporting every bit of your well-being is important. So yeah, that's a bit about what I do as well.
And
Thanks for that. I don't know, Sithe, were you saying something? I'm just
yeah,
reflecting here. A quick one.
okay.
I'm just reflecting here as you have an opportunity, to start or nurture this community. I see an opportunity for you ladies, turn those journals into books, because there's no information out there. It might be for those who cannot reach your support groups. Turn those journals into books. Document your journeys and turn them into books. I see also a gap. We were talking about educating, the parents, the families. I see in the chat there's a lot of talk about how the medical practitioners are making it difficult for mothers, when they're taking them for normal sickness like asthma. Creates a little, as a parent, you're already stressed that my child has asthma, but having someone to judge you and not support you with your child's condition, and not understanding that the child is autistic, autistic, and it's often added pressure to the parents. So I hear Mr. Nduli wants to come in as well and share his views.
Okay. One thing about autism, I would say it's a journey, because from what my daughter was when she was 5, now she's 11. She is a child that can respond. She has developed from that echolalia. She can respond. She can talk. It's just that she has a difficulty in comprehending stuff. Like, for example, she can read very well. She can read the whole novel, but she does not understand what the novel is. But what I usually do is I will ask her, since I discovered that is during the course of our learning. And even in grade 4, I've noticed that I started when she's reading, I'll say read one passage and tell me about it, so that I jog her memory, so that you try and say read with understanding now. Like stop reading in a vacuum. Like you'll be impressed when she's reading. You're like, oh, you read so well. But you ask her what you're reading, she doesn't understand. So that's improvement. So with autism children, you kind of like when you cannot talk loud to my daughter, because when you talk loud, she'll shut down. You could mean well, but as you speak louder, or as you are shouting, she will totally shut down. She will even cry, and she will even become hysteric. So even at school, when you're having meetings with teachers, you need to voice out, and you need to explain to the teacher that whenever you are relaying a message to this person, this is how he understands or she responds to you. So as you are with your child that is autistic, try and learn her behavior. Notice the way she responds to you every day, so that you could actually understand how your child wants to learn. They have a special way of learning. They don't learn like you and me. So it takes someone to be humble enough to to say my child is different, my child is unique. With support, yes, my family, they are supportive, even though um they may not understand what I'm dealing with, but they are there emotionally, and they are very supportive, including the mother of the kids. Okay, I have two. The son is from my other ex-partner. So with them, with all three of them, like no, it's like two of them actually. They are supportive. They are there. We are co-parenting very well, and I'm there every time she needs me. The other partner is also there for the kids whenever they need help. So it's a joint effort. It's not really a sole effort. And yeah, support is there. It requires a person to be really humble in this journey, and to put your pride aside, and seek what is right, and what is going to be the best for your child. And it also takes lead you to also educating the community. Well, you can only work with the community around you, and those that are closest to you, including your colleagues. Okay, this one, this is how she behaves, and this one, this is how. Okay, when you need something from her, this is how you address her. This is how you speak to her, and you don't. I'm not saying that you speak to her in a special way, but your tone. If you can just guard your tone, things will be fine, and you find that she's responding very well. So it's just you being patient with your child, and loving your child regardless. Uh, Again, be in touch with your spiritual journey. Remember, there is God, and God gave you entrusted you with this child for a reason. And their brain, they work in a very unique way that is new to us, that we may not be understanding, but that we seek to understand. And that's where we will discover why God has given those children to us. And sometimes, I'm a person that also watch movies. I've watched movies like The Accountant. I've watched movies like that Doctor Murphy. So if you watch those movies, that movie is more about autism, and it will give you an idea of what the doctor was going through when he was young, up until he was older. The Good Doctor, yes, the name of the movie is The Good Doctor. So it will give you an idea of how autistic people behave, because their social side is not normal, but they are very honest human beings. My daughter does not learn the conversation; she will tell it as it is. So it just that you need to just understand them. That's how they are. That's how they are designed. They are, as they say, as we are saying, they are different. Like I said, my daughter is like that, but my son is different. So he doesn't speak, but he communicates in a whole different language of his own. So it's up to us, like how Bongiwe has said, to make the community understand that these are the type of human beings we are dealing with. This is how they function, and probably we don't even know what X they come to solve in the world. So it's up to us to protect them, and also to educate the public or the community about them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sihle. I want to close now, but before I close, I want to invite Tandiwe, because she had her hand up. I know we've gone way beyond time. It's just that this space is a space that is a very small space, and there's hardly any opportunities for people to engage on this. So I'm going to give Tandiwe and then close after Tandiwe. 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 I don't know. Tandiwe had her end up. I think having a challenge with the mic. But colleagues, thank you for joining us in this session. I want to take a special thanks to our speakers today who have joined us and shared with us their journey in terms of their experience as parents and as advocates, as specialists. I hope this was very valuable for everyone. And I hope one is a better person in terms of either being a family member, a neighbor, a part of the community, or whether you go to church with someone who is an annoying child. And I'm sure as from this Sunday, that child will not be annoying to you. You will look at that child in a different perspective this time. I am just picking up that for those colleagues who have raised their voices, as some of the parents in this platform who we did not know are going through the same situation, thank you to them. I'm learning that there's nothing shameful about having a child who's autistic. I think we need to learn to be patient with the kids. We need to be patient with the parents. Let's join the support groups with them, and because it's not their problem only. They are part of the society. They're part of our system. So let it not be their burden only in terms of having to learn, but assist in learning together with them. And to the parents, from what you've shared with us today, please continue to being kind to yourself so that you can be a better loving parents to your kids. And thank you so much for pouring out your hearts and your experience with us. I'm hoping it was valuable for everyone. Thank you, everyone. If you want contact with Swazi, I'm sure they've shared something. And maybe Bongi, where if you can share the WhatsApp group number, if you want to share, if you want colleagues to join your WhatsApp group in terms of accessing that support, please share that WhatsApp group. I'm hoping that it will be available for everyone here on the platform who wants to learn more and get more support from that. Otherwise, enjoy your weekend. Have a pleasant one. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
I think so. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.